Welcome to Quantum Leap. I'm your host, Toyin Umesiri. Today I have a very special guest with us in the studio here in Aurora, Ms. Ursula Wegrzynowicz.
Yes.
She is the Regional Director of the Export-Import Bank of the United States. Welcome to Aurora.
Thank you, Toyin, for having me here today. I'm excited to be here with you.
It's such a delight. It's my pleasure. And thank you so much for joining us. So I'll share a little bit about Ms. Ursula. Ms. Ursula rejoined the EXIM Bank in 2020 and is currently serving as the Deputy Managing Director for the Central Region, supporting the exporting community by providing trade finance counseling related to the bank's products. Previously, Ms. Ursula founded a trade finance brokerage firm, MLEV LLC, with the goal of assisting U.S. exporters reach their export potential. MLEV, which was awarded the 2019 New Broker of the Year, assisted companies navigate a variety of trade, finance tools, and best practices to manage international sales risks, finance exports, and increase global competitiveness. Ms. Ursula is a member of the Board of Directors of the International Trade Association of Greater Chicago. Welcome again to Aurora. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So, EXIM. I'm quite familiar, but I realize not everybody's aware about what EXIM does to promote U.S. exports and to support the community, business community. Please, can you share with us a few of those things that EXIM does for the U.S. business community?
Well, that's why I'm really excited to be here with you today because EXIM Bank in the coming year is going to already be in existence for 90 years, which we're excited to celebrate our 90th anniversary. But one of our challenges for sure is just making sure that in particular, small and medium-sized companies know of our services, know of our existence, and how we can help them. So as I mentioned, we've been around for almost 90 years now, and we really partner closely with the U.S. Department of Commerce and the Illinois District Export Council to get in front of small and medium-sized companies to let them know that we provide financing support and we provide risk mitigation tools so that when they are doing business internationally or when they have an opportunity to sell a product or provide a service internationally, they have either our financing support or they have security from us from a payment standpoint. And really our goal and our mission is to get companies engaged in international so that they ultimately can create more job opportunities and more sales opportunities here domestically.
I love that. One of the things I always tell my clients is don't try to do this alone.
Absolutely.
Because your tools, your support, your counseling, the resources is to protect, right? To protect and also secure the success of U.S. exporters.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. So when it comes to financing, that's one of the hot topics, right? How do I fund exports? What are some tips you can give the Aurora business community and even others watching this beyond the region about what to think about or what they need to consider from a financing standpoint?
Well, first I'll mention that you said you can't do it alone, or you shouldn't be doing it alone. In order to be a successful exporter, you've got to build a team, not just internally, but as well as externally. And so establishing a relationship with a commercial bank is definitely essential. Maybe a community bank, but many community banks have relationships with larger banks, and you can get services that way. But also making sure, many companies who are in business are doing it domestically, of course, are probably going to have an accountant. As you start to look to export and do business internationally, it's making sure that your external team, like that accountant, has a knowledge base of international, or that, again, they have a resource or they're part of an association that gives them that knowledge base. Because as you grow your exports, one of the things your accountant could do is set up a domestic sales corporation, and that would reduce your tax receipts essentially. And so again, it's building a team outside of your organization to help you grow those exports. And from a financing standpoint, it's important to establish a relationship with the bank almost when you don't necessarily need it, right? Because when you need it, sometimes can be a bit difficult. And so what we do, I know that you had Small Business Administration on your show recently,
Yes.
and we are similar to them in that we will partner with a commercial bank to kind of take away the international risk from the banker, so that the banker then is comfortable in extending working capital support to the U.S. company. So that's one of the ways that we work with companies. But in terms of again, how to access financing, it's making sure that you also know your business, that you prepare financial statements with the assistance of an outside firm or even internally, but it's really knowing your business, and it's going into that company or into that banker rather. And when you're ready to talk about potentially taking on some debt for whatever purpose that might be, that you are going into that meeting with a number in mind, instead of saying something like, how much can I qualify for? It's really just going in prepared to that conversation.
I love that. So I want to try and explain what I understand from what you're saying in a very layman perspective. So what I'm understanding is that the US government comes along your side and also, in a way, backs a lender, right, to support you and to make sure that the lender is protected as well.
Correct.
Okay.
So there's really two different ways that we work directly in supporting U.S. companies. One is the financing support.
Yes.
So from the financing support, and within that, there's actually two ways as well. First and foremost, we want to make sure that a U.S. company who has an international purchase order and may have a relationship with a commercial bank, that we essentially partner with their bank to make sure that the banker is comfortable with the fact that the order is from Brazil or from Morocco or from Vietnam, whatever country it's coming from. Oftentimes banks are reluctant,
yes.
But had that order been from Kentucky or from Indiana or Wisconsin, if that banker wouldn't have been reluctant, we're here to just take away the commercial and political risk from that transaction.
Yes.
So, and we partner with over 50 banks in the United States, and many times we'll talk to an exporter and it turns out that they are already working with one of the banks that are partnered with us, but sometimes these organizations are large and it's just a matter of getting to the right contact within a given organization, and so we can make that connection. But again, one way that we work with companies is to make sure that their banker essentially gets comfort in the transaction so that they access the funds.
Yes.
The other way that we're providing financing support, just within the last year, we started a new program called Make More in America. So ultimately, EXIM Bank's been around for 9 years, and really our mission is to support U.S. companies' growth outside of the United States in order to create more jobs here in the United States. And in this new initiative that we have about Make More in America, we're kind of taking it a step further. In the past, we were always looking at, simply supporting export transactions, which we still do. But now we're starting to partner with companies who say, I need to build a new factory, or I need to renovate a factory, or I need to expand my factory. And in that case, we're actually doing direct financing, where we're actually directly working with companies. And I'll tell you, we have many transactions in the pipeline right now, ranging in size from 5 million up to a couple $100 million. And really, probably 5 million for that direct financing in terms of factory sort of support is sort of where we start out, only because the Small Business Administration does smaller transactions. And again, the whole purpose of this Make More in America program is to make sure that companies have access to the financing that they need. And ultimately, if they're either expanding a factory or renovating it or building brand new, we ultimately are going to be looking to them to be exporting 15. So we're going to be looking for them to generate 15 to 25% of their revenue from exports, because again, we are the Export-Import Bank, and we are always looking out to grow exports for U.S. companies, because we want our customers to have a diverse customer base. And so that means not just here in the United States, but outside the United States, because business cycles ebb and flow. And while we might slow down here in the United States, other parts of the world are still cranking away. And just like a personal investor who should have a diverse portfolio, U.S. companies should have a diverse portfolio of customers, domestically and internationally.
Wow, I'm loving that. So what you're saying is this new program supports export-centric business expansion in the U.S.
Correct. That's exactly right.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, that is something new. And so we're talking to companies who, for example, are looking to bring back production here in the United States, perhaps they've been doing it overseas, but bringing it back here in the United States to support the local economy. There's been a lot, obviously, in the medical space post-COVID that are looking to bring production here back in the United States. And again, there might be those factors are being built for domestic consumption, but we're always going to be looking to companies and pushing them to generate some of their revenue from exports as well. Again, all about having a diverse portfolio of customers.
I'm loving it. So let me ask this question. At what point do we come to you? Do we go to our lenders first? And if we're not able to secure export financing, then reach out to you? Or do we go directly to EXIM?
If you have our contact, come directly to us for sure.
Okay.
I think a lot of times companies end up contacting us because they got, right, they got stuck perhaps with their lender. But the way they come to us is a variety of different ways. And really, we're so grateful to you to have us here today because we're really trying to get out to them so that they know that these services exist and that we're trying to provide this financing support. And really, I have to tell you though, on a day-to-day basis, a lot of the companies that we work with aren't necessarily even looking for financing support, but they're really looking for, okay, I have this inquiry and my customer says, my prospective customer says that they won't pay me for 60 days or 90 days and I can't wait that long, or I'm nervous because I'm exporting outside of the country and it's a $20,000 shipment, but how am I going to collect in the event, I don't get paid? And so while we do provide financing support, a lot of what we do for small and medium-sized companies is really risk mitigation tools. So that's another part of the bank that is very active. So it's really just, we're offering insurance essentially to companies who are invoicing international customers. So for example, yesterday I talked to a company here in the Chicagoland area that is a manufacturer of industrial baking equipment. And they were telling me that they were sort of the third largest supplier, but their two larger US-based competitors were in the last year purchased by a European company. So the landscape's changed as a result of that consolidation, and they are now receiving inquiries internationally from very large companies, Mondelez being one example, but overseas, so it is an international risk. It might be Mondelez, Mexico, or Czech Republic, or another location, but there's still, of course, commercial and political risk associated with that payment. And so they came to us and said, well, they're offering us 20% down, but they're asking us to give 188 terms on the balance. How can I do that? What if something goes wrong? That's a really long period of time. And so we talked to them about the fact that we can provide them insurance. Of course, we're always going to do due diligence on who the customer is internationally. And in this case, it's a little easier. It is a recognizable name. But even if it's not a recognizable name, it's something that we do day in and day out, working with companies here in the United States saying, who's your customer? Let's do some due diligence. And then we, after doing that, will insure essentially that invoice. So really, the US company is only going to come to us if something goes wrong. Hopefully nothing goes wrong and payment comes in 180 days or 60 days. But if something goes sideways for a political reason or a commercial reason, that's what we're here for. And things do happen. Yes. We have a great resource on our website called the Country Limitation Schedule. And it kind of sets out all the countries in the world where we currently do business and where we don't do business. And there are many markets, obviously, some markets that we legally are prohibited from doing business because of sanctions, but there's also markets, unfortunately, like in Argentina, that's difficult right now. The Argentine importers aren't able to get access to US dollars to pay their vendors in the United States. So as an example, that's not a market that we're doing business in currently. But that's valuable information. Yes. As our US companies are receiving inquiries, we're trying to prevent them from getting into a bad, situation. And so information and education, it goes right along with it. But
I love this. This is great information because it's about protecting the American, interests abroad.
Absolutely.
And also, do you also want to share in terms of when things do go bad, in terms of what you cover, how much of percentage? I've heard good numbers.
Yes, yes. So our insurance covers 90 to 95% of a company's invoice, kind of depending on whether a company is coming to us with a single transaction or they're coming to us with a whole basket. And really, we're acting like an insurance company in many respects. So if you come to us with one risk, you're going to share a little bit more in that risk, 10%. We'll cover 90. But if you're providing us with a basket, then we'll increase our coverage. And oftentimes companies ask what the cost of this is. And the cost does vary depending on how much time. But just in as example, this company I spoke to with bakery equipment sale to Mondelez, they were looking at the Czech Republic at 180 days. The cost to insure that is going to be roughly 1%.
Wow.
So they can build, what we were talking about yesterday is for them building in that cost of our insurance into their quote, because there's no reason they should be absorbing that cost. And also we counsel companies, by the way, if you're giving 180 days of credit, you're acting effectively as a banker for your customer. There's no reason that you shouldn't be passing on your cost of funds. While inflation here in the United States is relatively high, historically speaking for us, inflation in many markets internationally is significantly higher. So U.S. companies who give terms, who are open to that, to giving terms to international customers, have a competitive advantage. You're making it easier for your customer to purchase from you. You're not asking for prepayments. You're not asking for potential letters of credit, which are appropriate payment tools in some situations, but really hard when you have repeat business, particularly with a distributor. And you're really just making it less expensive for your customer internationally to purchase from you by giving them credit. And we stand behind you in case of that non-payment situation. So when do we pay? If there's any political risk, any action on the part of the foreign government that would prevent your customer from paying you, we step in immediately. Wow. Most of the time, though, we really see non-payment situation due to commercial risk. Maybe you sold to a distributor. That distributor sold to an end user. They didn't get paid. And as a result, you're not getting paid here in the United States. So any type of commercial risk, whether it's bankruptcy, insolvency, just slow pay or cash flow problems on the part of the overseas customer, we can cover those risks. So, and we cover it again at 90 or 95%, depending on how that's set up. So, we have companies who ask, what size transaction can you do? And on this side, we really can do any, because we are charging a premium based upon the size of the invoice. So you have a $10,000 invoice, you're going to give 60-day terms, you're going to pay us $55.
Wow.
Okay, for $55, if your customer doesn't pay you, we're going to give you a check for $9,500. Of course, we are going to ask you for documentation. It's an insurance policy.
Yes.
We want a purchase order, a final invoice, a shipping document.
Wow.
So going back to those partners, your external team, one of the key partners we counsel U.S. companies to have is a freight forwarder. A freight forwarder is an essential partner. They understand export regulations. They know how to move product, but they also control the documents that you need for, in our case, payment. Wow. So you want to have a good freight forwarder as well. So sorry, we've been all over the place here.
No, this is great information. So let's bring it home to Aurora.
Yes.
What can exporting do for the community here when we have more businesses tapping into resources like the EXIM Bank? What's the potential of exports to a community like Aurora?
Exports are so essential to, again, bring stability, because when you have a company that is exporting and has a diverse portfolio of customers, they're stable in their sales. Again, while things may slow down in the United States, overseas, things are chugging along. But the other thing that we've learned from our customers is that those who do business internationally and are competing on an international basis sharpen their skills. Their products become better, their processes become better, they become more competitive. As a result, they generate more revenues, they provide stable employment to the local community, they're more successful. And one of our customers that we, interestingly, we heard from their perspective about the fact that they started to do business actually internationally more so before they even got going domestically. And that international acceptance of their product actually brought them success domestically, because all of a sudden domestically it was noticed that they were having success on an international basis. So for Aurora to be active in the international trade community, it will build stability for the local economy.
Wow, thank you so much. This is great stuff. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having.
Yes, so now I'm going to ask you my leadership success question. You've been in the government and gone private sector and back into the government. what would you say one or two success tips that you're able to share with my audience in terms of upward mobility and achieving greater success in your career? What would you share with us?
I would say one thing to have a positive mindset. The
Okay.
prior I think what I learned, particularly working on my own, is having a yes mindset. Like, I'm not sure I always had the answer, but I kind of always said yes to an opportunity and knew that there would be a way to figure it out, how to
Wow.
get there. Maybe it's not necessarily the way I envisioned at the front end I would get, to that particular point, but I think if you're open and you're positive, you have a positive mindset, you find a way.
Oh, I love that because you're right. With, the ups and downs of any day, just knowing that tomorrow is going to be better than today.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to have you, and we'd love to have you back. Hopefully, this is not the last time.
Would love to be back.
Awesome. So, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me on today's episode of Quantum Leap. I'm sure the information you've heard today about the Export Bank is really going to help you take your business to the next higher dimensions. See you again next week.